The FCC's National Broadband Plan inspired a memorandum by the Obama administration to release 500 megahertz of spectrum over the next 10 years through spectrum reallocation or sharing. Well, based on the current and projected exponential growth of bandwidth usage over the next 3 years, we'll need both and then some. Here to tell us more is Gautham Nagesh of Congressional Quarterly. And Gautham, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So I, of course, try to put the emphasis on and then some. We're talking today about spectrum auctions, but also talking about, and more so for that matter, about spectrum sharing. These spectrum auctions over the last few years were meant to facilitate and support the amount of bandwidth that our consumer base and consumer market needs right now. But it turns out that the spectrum sharing is playing a little more front and center right now. PCAST, of course, as you know, is the President's Council of Advisors on Science and Technology. They laid out a plan for spectrum sharing between the public and private sector. How soon will this plan be rolled out? And I am aware that the 200 megahertz will be rolled out immediately. What does that mean?
Well, 200 megahertz meaning that will be available for proposals to share that spectrum, make use of it without exclusive licensing. That's really the theme that PCAST is pushing right now, is that rather than dividing up spectrum held by the government and auctioning it off, we should make it available to commercial companies so that anyone who is operating on those frequencies can use it without exclusively owning it. It seems like a more efficient use of spectrum. It reflects a little bit some of the unlicensed uses and other things like that in the past. How it will work remains a major question. That is not the way that most of the cell phone networks work right now. As you know, most of the major wireless carriers own proprietary spectrum. Their networks are programmed that way. Questions about interference, all of these things would have to be mitigated. So, you know, whenever we're talking about a government plan, usually speed is not the emphasis. And so I would say it'd be, if not years, months at least, before we start to see some details of how this would emerge.
Now, not too far back, I believe it was on July 20th of this year, there was a release of the PCAST proposal for spectrum sharing. We have a couple clips from that event. Jason Furman is the Deputy Director of the National Economic Council and also a member of the PCAST Council. He talks about spectrum sharing, Gautham, and how to alleviate some of the pressure off of the network. Let's go ahead and listen to that.
But since that time, June 2010, the amount of spectrum we use, the amount of use of the spectrum has probably increased 5 to 10-fold. So we set a goal of doubling over a decade. In 2 years, it's probably gone up 5 to 10 times the amount that we use. That means that figuring out how to reallocate spectrum, especially to exclusive license use, is not going to be anywhere near sufficient to keep up with the demand. And you look forward at this pace, by the end of the decade, it would go up 1,000-fold.
Now, Furman mentioned exclusivity in licensing and as opposed to spectrum sharing. Is he just talking about spectrum sharing between the public and private sector, or are stakeholders within the private sector going to have to jump on and off spectrum bands together?